Hello everybody, welcome to Snyder's Inc. And today we got another Nick Crowley one. This is YouTube's Darkest Channels Part 4. We're gonna go right into this. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment what you think down below. Let's go.
January 3rd, 2021, installment number 3 of YouTube's Darkest Channels is released.
I legit was scared.
The episode showcased multiple disturbing accounts, with one in particular being Leather Smoke Me, an account run by a man who, along with his fans, fetishized his own deterioration and subsequent death due to smoking. Before this video aired, I would briefly explore the entirety of this smoking fetish community, discovering a countless number of these channels participating in it, with one of which being run by a 19-year-old high school student named Dylan Pontney, by far the youngest person I had ever seen taking part in this. I would only watch one of his videos in passing, using that along with many others as evidence that this trend did in fact exist. However, at the time, I could have never known how twisted that obscure channel truly was, and how much darker it would get, as just a few months later, Dylan's life would take a disturbing turn, and one that would forever immortalize his channel as one of YouTube's darkest. Before we get too far into this, I want to thank today's sponsor, Raycon. Raycon is truly disrupting the electronics industry by making great sound affordable for everyone, as their wireless earbuds start at just half the price of other premium audio brands. Co-founded by Ray J, it's no wonder celebrities like Snoop Dogg and Mike Tyson are using these earbuds, as they come in a wide variety of fun colors and patterns, with multiple fit options for everyone, all without the dangling wires or stems, and they have the performance to match their look, with 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and a compact, comfortable fit. Recently, I've been wearing mine while walking my new puppy, Kuma. So if you would like a pair of your own Raycons, click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/Nick Crowley, and you'll get 15% off of your Raycon purchase. And with their 45-day free return policy, you can try them today practically risk-free. Addicted to dying slower. This was the caption for Dylan Pontney's first video on Instagram, as he's shown taking a long drag of his cigarette. And looking back, it was this account that provides the context needed to understand Dylan, as well as his YouTube channels, as videos like this were the basis of his content, and those watching absolutely loved it. Commenters would say things like, "Looking good, man. You're so sexy, addicted lung. Your face is cute," and "very hot smoker, smoker fetish?" He would never respond to that final question, though
This was a thing in the last one, it's the weirdest thing that people would get turned on to. I don't know why. Like, get a grip, would y'all? Some of y'all are weird. They're just weird. I'm sorry y'all are. Just stop. Like, if you find this attractive, y'all are weird.
the answer wasn't hard to find. Dylan would post these videos shirtless, while acknowledging and thanking the fans who were leaving sexual comments, even mentioning a potential start of an OnlyFans account. He knew what he was doing, and his account was a fetish page through and through, but not in the way that you would typically expect. Dylan clearly loved smoking, but more specifically the dark side effects that came with it, as he would hashtag things like cancer and lung, as well as even stating outright that he thought cancer was good. And he was being serious too, as he'd even take pictures of the warning labels on cigarette packages, which featured photos of withering and dying individuals, as they were designed to scare people away. But rather than deterring him, Dylan would openly say how
This is a man who actually wants to die of smoking. That is weird. Like, to think that someone's goal in life is to just smoke all over social media and die doing by it. So weird.
much he loved the sight of them, as it showed what could happen to him someday, an idea that Dylan absolutely loved. Dylan Pontney wanted to get cancer and die before his audience's eyes, much like Leather Smoke Me had done years before, along with many others across the web, with his Instagram providing all the context we need, context that would make his YouTube channels all the more concerning. Dylan had 3 channels, one of which going under the same name as his Instagram, along with another called Jericho Chris, the same account that I had found way back when researching in December. And both accounts consisted mainly of his smoking videos. And quickly, Dylan would start to amass a few hundred views per video, as viewers were watching eagerly to see the young man begin to wither. It's a concept that's stark enough, especially considering his age. But as mentioned, Dylan had 3 total channels, with his third proving to be the darkest. The channel would go by the name of Juniper Crossing, and again feature more smoking clips. Only, unlike his other pages, these clips didn't make up the majority of his content. In fact, the channel itself was dedicated to a whole other rabbit hole here on YouTube. And it's one that we've been down before.
See what I'm talking about? That is true power and true free will. Basically, we're all trapped on an iron grid. Our cells are literally keeping us trapped on planet Earth.
What the hell is this?
You need to get to the center of the flat Earth before you're dead, or you will expire of your own stupidity.
What the f...
Blood Over Intent, Proof of Life, Quasi-Luminous. This was the title of Dylan's second upload to the Juniper Crossing channel that would go live back in December of 2021, clearly in reference to what has now become one of the largest and most intriguing rabbit holes on all of YouTube. We explored the mystery way back in the day, the Cult of Saturn. It's a group that believes an apocalyptic event is imminent.
Well, I found another video I gotta watch of his. I've never seen this YouTube Darkest Cult one. You guys want to see me react to that? Because I feel like there's something there I want to dig myself into.
And the only way to survive is to put your name in Satan's Book of Life, a book reserved for the first 144,000 people who partake in a ritual known as Blood Over Intent. For the ritual, you write your intentions down on a sheet of paper and then spill your blood over it, which supposedly manifests your intentions, as well as puts your name in the Book of Life, essentially securing your salvation. But in order for it to fully work, you must record the ritual and post it here on YouTube. It's one of the first big rabbit holes that we explored on the channel, and it was uncovered that the man behind the whole movement is named Mark Braun, or as he goes by on YouTube, Quasi-Luminous, which Dylan references in the title of his video. Mark believes that he is Satan himself, and the followers of this movement believe the same, despite the fact that in reality he's just a genuinely disturbed guy. Now, fellow YouTuber Blame It On Jorge has, in my opinion, the best breakdown of this mystery, so I recommend watching his video on it for further details. But all in all, it's an incredibly twisted community, something that became even more apparent to me, as every now and then I still receive bizarre threats from certain members of the group, despite having posted that video over a year ago.
Wait a minute. So, y'all are so sadly... Your group of people in this cult are so damn petty and pathetic that a man talking about your cult and how weird y'all are gets your panties in the munch, y'all start making threats? Y'all a weird group of people. That's not an offensive thing. Y'all weird. It's just, some of us are all weird. You just gotta accept it. You just gotta move on. Y'all a bunch of weird fuckers.
Nicholas Crowley.
Nicholas Crowley, you are in the Book of Death for good reason. Oh, fucking hell.
You were in the pocket of August, have you seen it? Nicholas Crowley. You were in the pocket of August, have you seen it? Nicholas Crowley.
I couldn't take any of you all seriously if y'all start sending me threats. Y'all a bunch of jokes. Y'all are.
But out of all the videos that I've seen associated with this group, Dylan's truly stand out. Most people who take part in this will simply prick their finger with a pushpin in order to spill their blood, but Dylan's approach is a little different and much more violent. Rather than gently jabbing himself with a pushpin, Dylan instead slams it into his finger over and over again, in most cases pushing the pin clear through his thumb, in one side and out the other. And though I can't fully show you an example of this, you can understand the force he's using just by listening.
Bro.
There's a real darkness to this Juniper Crossing channel, as it's essentially the combination
Hey, he fucked up, y'all fucked up. What's wrong with y'all?
of two YouTube mysteries we've covered in the past, both of which being incredibly concerning in their own right. I mean, this is a channel run by a kid who wants to get cancer and die, while at the same time immersing himself into one of YouTube's darkest cults. And what's also obvious when watching these videos is there's a real anger to Dylan, which is fully on display when he jams the pin through his finger, as well as on his Instagram page. We can see that his bedroom walls are filled with holes, likely as a result of Dylan punching them.
First comment, what one ugly motherfucker this guy is.
He was clearly dealing with some very serious issues in regards to his mental health, and unfortunately, things would only escalate from this point on. From here, he'd begin to fall down into a conspiracy rabbit hole, posting about the Earth being flat, stating that humans are being farmed, and that our world is just one big prison. Theories that he would begin to push more and more on his channel as time went on, further showcasing what appeared to be the deterioration of Dylan's mind, and posts that would all lead us to his final upload, a video that will forever prove to be the
I'm about to say, there's no way this guy is just on here because he's a conspiracy theorist and all that. There was something this guy did.
darkest he'd ever make. On the morning of March 15th, 2021, Dylan would post a video titled "Smoking in a Car Full Vid." It would feature no further description. The clip shows as Dylan jokes around with his father on their way to Dylan's school as he enjoys his early morning cigarette, which in his words was the best way to start the day. He then asks his dad if they could visit his nana after school, and the two would start to plan out their day.
Are we going to Nana's place after? Are we supposed to? You want to go there for a visit? Yeah.
Dylan then finishes his cigarette before shutting off the camera. He would never post again. Not just on his YouTube account, but on his Instagram as well. In fact, no social media belonging to Dylan would ever be updated from this moment on. The video would go live as soon as Dylan would get dropped off at school, and from there he would start his day as usual. That morning he would sit in his classroom at Christ the King High School, the same way he would do any other school day, only today was different. For reasons unknown, at roughly 9:30 a.m., Dylan would stand up from his chair before pulling a knife out of his backpack, right in the middle of class. He would then proceed to turn to the girl sitting next to him. Before anyone could realize what was happening, Dylan would stab 17-year-old Jennifer Winkler and quickly leave the classroom and the school itself. It happened.
Wait a minute, so this man just went inside in his classroom and pulled out a knife and just started stabbing a random chick for no damn reason? Is this what your ass fucking cult does? You psychopaths?
Happened too quickly to react, and in an instant, Jennifer would be fatally injured, later passing away in the hospital before her father could say goodbye. Dylan would attempt to run, but would only make it to a nearby neighborhood before being caught and arrested for murder. Just barely a few hours ago, Dylan was sitting with his dad planning out his day, and there was no sort of indication in this final video that just moments later he would take a life in cold blood. And even more shocking of all, according to the victim's father, there was seemingly no bad blood between the two. As a matter of fact, they were at one point neighbors, though they never really hung out or talked. The attack was completely unprovoked and seemingly without reason. According to Dylan's own dad, he was a troubled kid who struggled daily.
So yeah, it was literally just a random attack. He literally just saw this girl and was like, "You're the one," and just stabbed her. That's how bad this guy is. That's how fucked up y'all are.
with mental health issues, but in his own words, he said he believed that Dylan was making strides and starting to get better, but his YouTube channel paints a different story. It showed a young man who had seemingly no will to live, a man that wanted to die, and a young man who was clearly dealing with intense and very concerning anger issues, all leading to him cutting short a life for seemingly no reason at all. And just based off of the way that Jennifer's dad describes her, well, it seems like our world lost an amazing person that day.
She was bright, smart, creative. She was just Jenny. I'm gonna miss her, and
A few days following the murder, I would receive an email from one of my viewers letting me know what had happened, which in part revealed the true scope of Dylan's channels, and just how quickly things had turned for the worst from that fateful day that I had viewed his video. But most disturbingly of all, at that point there were still people leaving comments from the Blood Over Intent group, literally saying that they praised Dylan, despite the fact that he was a known murderer at this point, something that if you were in his comment sections, you couldn't miss. The Juniper Crossing channel stands today as a dark look into the mind of a truly
I wonder if the people who worship him know who he is. Like, know that he murdered the 17-year-old girl. Because if they know that and you still worship him, you're just fucked up in the head. His cult people, the cult people probably love his ass. They probably worship the guy he's walked on because he's so, they're all so fucking crazy.
Disturbed individual, someone who dedicated his life to a satanic cult, someone who wanted the world to see him slowly die on his channel, and someone who would mercilessly kill not even 2 hours after posting his final video. And unfortunately, the signs were there all along. But this isn't always the norm. In fact, typically just the opposite rings true, as people will hide behind their YouTube personalities, leaving behind no indication of the true evil that they possess. And in the case of Cadence Pinder, this rings especially true. It was a channel that began back in 2014, though remnants of that time have long since been removed, as both Cadence and her channel would go through a massive change in 2017. That year, Cadence would transition genders from male to female, having undergone surgery and procedures to become the person that she always felt she was. It was an isolating time for her, and rather than going through the struggles alone, she would instead decide to dedicate her channel to this journey. With that, the page was completely wiped, and Cadence would start from scratch, bringing her viewers into her life and her experiences as a transgender woman. A move that would immediately pay off. Her channel began to grow a massive...
I hate that this is on here. Because I know they're not on here. She's not on it just because she's transgender. But the fact that someone who is transgender is on here is very sad, in my opinion, because it, like... The thought process of the channel is a good idea. You're going through a full transition, you transition genders, you want to have people in it, you want to include people in the struggle you will be going through in that. So, that makes sense. It's also somewhat a bad idea, because you're just going to get a bunch of hate, because there are a bunch of fucked up human beings out there. But to think what she went through, very cautious when it comes to this stuff, because I don't want to get on anyone's bad side here. Except for the people who are fucking hate transphobic. I couldn't give a fuck about any of you. In fact, if you're transphobic, I don't want you. If you're this scenario, though, but like, the thought process of the channel is good. But the fact it's on here means either something bad happened to her, or she did something bad. Which is, and Sid, like he was talking about, some people hide their stuff up channel, which makes me think she did something, which, oh god.
A few thousand subscribers, and her videos would gain hundreds of thousands of views in just 1 year of posting. And following this trajectory, her numbers were poised to continue growing. But this change in content wasn't just paying off in terms of numbers. Over that time, her comment sections would be filled with positive messages from people who had been genuinely helped by Cadence as they too were transitioning and dealing with similar struggles of their own. Cadence's content was quite literally making people feel less lonely at a time in their lives that can be notoriously isolating. And though we're following
Now more than ever, trans people need to be linked together. Because in fact, there are a bunch of fucked up human beings who have too much power than they should have, who are trying to target them just because they want to fill some political fucking problem.
was far from huge, the impact that she was making on the world and in the lives of her viewers certainly was. And one could imagine that a few more successful years of posting, and who knows, maybe Cadence could have truly made a living off of YouTube. This is just something that we'll never know, as instead, by the beginning of 2018, her posting would slow to a halt, leaving the channel to go dormant to this day. Now, typically throughout the series, when a channel abruptly stops posting, it's normally a sign that something tragic had happened. But in this case, the circumstances were a bit different, as Cadence would actually continue updating her other social media profiles, even after abandoning the channel. There, she would post about how burnt out she had become and the lack of motivation that she possessed for making videos. And it seems she would never get this motivation back, as despite the hot start, the channel was still a long ways away from paying her bills. And being in her mid-20s at the time, she needed to find a reliable income elsewhere. And it was around this time that she would receive the perfect offer. At the time, Cadence was dating her longtime boyfriend Marcus Strabel, whose mother owned a daycare service that she ran from home. And looking to expand, his mother would offer the couple a job in which they could operate their own daycare service right from their home. For the couple, the opportunity was
Once I heard daycare service, I'm worried children are the victims here, and that, anyone who knows this channel knows how I feel about, when children are the victims here. They know how I get, they know how I am,
a no-brainer, as they both loved kids, and the job would allow them to work even without leaving their home. And by 2018, Cadence would leave YouTube behind to pursue this new venture full-time. A move that at first proved to be the right decision, as she enjoyed her career and could now financially sustain herself. But very quickly, things would take a turn for the worst. Not long into the daycare's operation, the Division of Child and Family Services would quietly launch an investigation into the daycare, and more specifically, into Cadence Pinder. The exact details of this event are still to this day unknown, but we do know why they were alerted in the first place, with the reason being that Cadence had been accused of performing a hands-on sexual offense to a child, something that supposedly happened when she was watching the children within her own home. It's a horrifying statement to read, but ultimately it proved to be short-lived, as the case was quickly dropped, essentially declaring Cadence as innocent, allowing her to continue her job as an at-home daycare worker. And subsequently, the information within the case would never be released, not even to the parents who were trusting this service. But either way, Cadence was technically found innocent, so perhaps it's unnecessary to even mention this. Well, maybe it would be, if not for the fact that during the same time, something else very dark was brewing behind the scenes. On December 2nd of 2019, the FBI would receive a tip that would come right from Google, who would notify them of suspicious activity coming from the account of Cadence Pinder. And it wouldn't stop there, as just a week later, the FBI would yet again be notified, this time of even more suspicious activity that Google had noticed from that same account, with both alerts claiming that Cadence may have uploaded suspicious content to her account, with the content in question being CP. These tips would lead to the FBI opening an official investigation into Cadence along with her boyfriend, as the two would share the account, though for a while nothing would come of it. In fact, it wouldn't be until November of 2020, nearly a full year later, that the FBI would visit the household of Cadence and Marcus. Once there, Cadence would claim that she had in fact seen CP just once or twice while scrolling around Tumblr, but that she had never actually downloaded anything, instead quickly clicking off in disgust. Marcus himself would echo a similar statement as well, claiming that if anything was downloaded, then it must have been an accident, and certainly nothing had been uploaded, even offering up his phone along with Cadence so that the FBI could confirm that there was nothing on their devices. However, their compliance didn't last long. Unsurprisingly, the FBI would accept their offer to search their phones, something that would immediately cause the couple to backtrack, as they refused to hand anything over before.
I know their thought process. So these two are actually just, like, this is fucked up. So this is what actually happened. So they read, okay, we'll give you our phones here. But take a look at our phones. You want to look at our phones? Fine. What they thought would happen is the police obviously would be like, oh, they must be innocent then. We don't need to look at your phones. You must be innocent because you wouldn't hand over your phones if you were guilty. That's the thought process they had, right? But once they actually realized, they was like, yeah, we'll look at your phone. They're like, oh shit, wait, we actually have shit on our phones. We can't, no, hold on, we don't actually want to give you the phones. No, hold on, we're gonna just do some, they're just like, hold on, we're just gonna do some things, hold on, we're just gonna delete some things, like, oh, you made yourself even worse there.
For asking the officers to leave their home. It was an undeniable red flag, and that alone told authorities all they needed to know, that both Cadence and Marcus had something worth hiding on their phones. But even this forethought couldn't prepare them for what they would find. After obtaining a warrant to search the phones of the couple, it would be revealed that the alert had in fact been correct, and Cadence's phone did hold multiple photos containing CP. But somehow it was even worse than you would imagine. Along with the straight-up CP was photographs depicting real-life physical abuse in some of the worst ways imaginable, all of which being done to children, and all of which found on the phone of a daycare worker.
This girl's fucked up. And I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear you people saying it's not true, and it's like some bullshit where it's like it's not true, it's just because she's transgender. No, it isn't. Nope, don't you dare try to send this thing. If this girl on her phone has actual photos of children that she shouldn't have, you know what I mean when I say that, and it has things of children being abused and has photos of it, they need to run hell.
Having been caught red-handed, Cadence would state that it must have been a mistake, further claiming that she must have accidentally downloaded them from Tumblr, or it was Marcus who had done this all, though his story was...
Of course he would blame her. Like, it must have been the boy. Yeah, my boyfriend just did it. My boyfriend just did it on my phone. Just downloaded all of this. I could never have done that. I'm barely ever on my phone. I never even on my phone. They're both his phone. They're just not even mine.
Was much different. His phone also contained photographs depicting similar content, which he had admitted to downloading, only not alone. According to him, the couple would download these images together, admitting that they viewed them separately and stored their favorites on separate accounts for later use. Though he was adamant about one thing, the fact that he had no idea that these kids were underage. This, however, was a blatant lie. Upon reviewing the images, the FBI would conclude that the photographs could not have been mistaken for adults, as they didn't show teenagers or even preteens for that matter. Instead, the photos were of children as young as 3 years old, the same age as the kids that the two were watching over, alone within their home. And though the FBI had only received 2 alerts, the true scope was far worse than just a few photographs, as Cadence Pinder, the once budding YouTuber, had 125 pictures depicting CP all within her phone.
This girl needs to go to hell. This girl gets no sympathy. No sympathy. For you You run a fucking daycare. You run a fucking daycare. And you have CP. You are a fucked up human being. I almost worry for the children she took care of. Did we ever find out if any of the photos CP were from any children she ran at the daycare? Did they ever check that? Because it wouldn't surprise me.
Far more than her boyfriend Marcus. The discovery has led to Cadence being charged with 15 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor, with Marcus being charged with 10 counts of the same. As of now, the two are both awaiting sentencing, but having them locked away is a huge relief. Though I'm still left with many questions. That allegation of a sexual act performed on a minor by Cadence way back before she had gotten caught makes me wonder if there was any truth to that story, as she clearly was attracted to children, and she worked in close quarters alone with them, which also makes me wonder if the photos that she possessed were of kids that she was supposed to be watching. As remember, the Google alert was spurred on because Cadence had uploaded a photo, not just downloaded. So maybe that was a picture of one of the children that she was trusted to watch. But this is something.
This girl's so fucked up. I hate everything about. I hate this woman. I hate this person. I don't care what gender they are. You do that, you're a fucked up human being. I hate you. That's the end of the story, because you took advantage of children. You took advantage of innocent children for your own fucking sexual pleasure, and it's so fucked up. And there was parents who trusted in you to watch their children, and you fucking used that trust and did that with they're just. This girl needs to go to hell.
Something that to this day hasn't been confirmed, and as of now it's believed that at the very least, the majority of pictures that she had on her device were pulled right from Tumblr, which makes one of her final tweets all the more disturbing, as she says, "Wait, you can't upload to Tumblr anymore? I thought that's the only reason people even use Tumblr. Look at me learning something new every day." Cadence Pinder was, is, and will always be a disturbed individual. And scary enough, she had found herself in the perfect profession to objectify young children behind closed doors, a job that she was allowed to continue after one allegation, and nearly a year after Google had told the FBI that she had uploaded CP. And who knows what kind of sick things transpired within her home. But though the job she had found herself in was the perfect storm for a sick individual like Cadence, the profession that she had sought out initially wasn't much better, as she had actively tried for over a year to become a famous YouTuber, something that, had it happened, would have surrounded her with thousands of kids who looked up to her and would do anything for her. I mean, we see it every day, vile people using their status here to lure in kids, and as crazy as it may seem, I have to wonder if that was a motivating factor for her starting to make content in the first place. But for our next creator, he never tried to hide the fact that he had a much darker career outside of YouTube. In fact, he practically put it on display for the world to see.
Okay, what's this one?
The channel takes us to the Mexican state of Jalisco, the hometown of an up-and-coming rapper known as QBA. His real name was Christian Omar Palma Gutierrez, but most called him by his stage name, as his YouTube channel would go by QBA Official. And it was on this channel where he would begin to make a name for himself. Starting back in 2015, the young rapper would lean on the site to promote his music and share it across the world, and that's exactly what would happen. At the moment, he has songs across the site with over 10 million views, and on his own channel, he has multiple music videos that have amassed anywhere from 2 to 5 million views apiece. In Mexico, he was a full-blown star, as he'd rap about violence, gang activities, and drugs, something not too uncommon in that era of Mexican hip-hop. Though with these dark lyrics came a problem. YouTube would not monetize QBA's music, meaning that though he was getting millions of views, it said that at his peak, QBA was only making a mere $300 a month, nowhere near enough to bank on full-time. Making matters more difficult, the young rapper had recently gotten married and had a child, and with the wage he was making on YouTube, he knew that he would have to take on another job to help his family financially. So in 2018, he would begin a side gig as a car mechanic, working for around $80 to $100 a week. But as QBA struggled to pay his bills, a scandal had broken out in that same area where he lived. In February of 2018, 3 university students had gone out to film a school project, with a group settling on a somewhat remote region of Jalisco, QBA's home state. It was a trip that they would never return from, as they vanished into the night. The disappearance was shocking and especially concerning as the 3 students were last seen being led to a vehicle by armed police officers, with the big issue being that there were no patrol cars in that area.
Wait, so 3 people disappeared after being led there by police officers. They brought there for me. I don't know if it was a project. I don't know what the... I don't know if, like, the police were supposed to bring them there or whatever, but they were brought there by police and disappeared. Yeah, I don't understand why people would be suspicious.
Area, and no cops either for that matter. Instead, the group had been kidnapped by fake officers and hadn't been seen since entering the vehicle. The case would gain national attention, as many assumed that the 3 had been killed, though no bodies had been discovered. In fact, no bodies would be discovered, or could be for that matter, and oddly enough, this was all thanks to QBA. When the rapper had taken up a job as a car mechanic, he would become close to his boss, a man named El Cochi, and seeing that the young man was struggling financially, he would offer him another job, one that would pay $160 a week, far more than he even made on YouTube, with the position being titled as a cook. But it's not the cook that you...
Oh, he's a pot. Okay, he's a pot maker. He's got to set up pot. He's got to help them make meth. That's what I bet you. That's what the thing was. He was supposed to help them make meth.
You would normally expect, as instead, El Cochi had worked for the notorious Jalisco New Generation Cartel, a gang known as one of Mexico's most dangerous and violent, and the cooks were the low men on the totem pole, being practically relegated to dirty work and cleanup. Immediately after taking up the job, those 3 film students would go out to film on that fateful day, in which they had no idea that they were stepping on this gang's land, right in a location where the cartel was expecting another gang to show up. And thinking the students were with that gang, the Jalisco group would kidnap them, posing as police officers. Upon being kidnapped, the group would begin to torture them one by one as they desperately tried to get info on the gang that the 3 were working for, a gang that none of these students had any connection to, meaning that as they were being tortured for answers, they quite literally had nothing they could say. There was no information they could give, something that caused the violence to get so extreme that one student would ultimately be tortured to death. Realizing their...
Wait, so they kidnapped these 3 people. If I might have misheard this, so my hearing's not the greatest right now, with the speakers and my AC and all that. So but what I've gathered is they kidnapped the 3 people, trying to figure out what drugs, what gang the 3 were part of, because they were in their territory. But the 3 had no gang affiliation, so they had no answers to give, which just caused the violence to increase, because in the gang's mind, they're not answering the question, they're not admitting the truth. But instead, it's literally just they have enough information to give.
Their mistake, the gang members would shoot the other 2 in cold blood to remove any possibility of this info getting out. The 3 film students had been murdered, and ultimately for no reason at all. It was at this moment that the gang would call upon QBA, the fresh new cook. He would be tasked with cleaning up the bodies of the 3 students in a way that would assure that they could never be found. So he one by one placed the bodies in large barrels and proceeded to fill them with acid. The acid would break down the chunks of flesh into a soup-like consistency, turning the kids into a substance that was completely unrecognizable to what they once were, before pouring the human soup down a storm drain, being rinsed away and never to be seen again. Following the completion of the job, QBA would continue rapping and posting his music onto YouTube, with these works being especially dark as he rapped about living life as a gang member. But before long, the channel would go silent, having had no uploads since, with the main reason being that QBA had been arrested. Unfortunately for him, QBA would be blown in for his role in the crime, essentially becoming the fall guy for the event, as he would eventually admit to having dissolved the bodies, as well as doing the same thing to even more victims, left behind from at least 3 separate hits. In aiding in the case against him, police would actually use snippets of the songs he'd post to YouTube as evidence on trial, as he often rapped about the gang activities as well as specific instances that authorities believe may have actually happened. His persona and his music were no act, and QBA had been rapping from experience. But QBA's channel isn't only dark because his lyrics allude to the lifestyle he was living, but also because, looking back on his situation, you can clearly see that his music was a call for help. In his songs, he would frequently talk about being trapped within the gang, calling it his own hell and implying that he wanted out, something that, upon agreeing to join, would never have been possible. His music was literally him admitting that something was wrong in his life and that he needed help, but to the millions who listened, they only thought it was art, making the channel tragic in its own way. And though this is where QBA's story ends, as he will now spend the rest of his life in prison, forever being known as a what-if in the world of hip-hop, the presence of gang and cartel violence is something that is still very apparent on the dark side of YouTube, and it has been for a very long time. Most famously, 17-year-old Juan Luis Leganes Rosales, who had become well known throughout the world of social media, and specifically on YouTube, before releasing a video where he would insult the leader of the very gang that QBA had worked for. A move that didn't sit well. As a result, gang members would enter a bar in which the online star had been hanging out at, before opening fire, striking the teenager as many as 18 times, killing him instantly. It was one of the more viral YouTube stories back in 2017, and tragically, it has since come out that Juan was incredibly impaired at the time of that notorious recording, and the video itself was taken by a friend who posted it to social media without his consent. A decision that would prove to be a tragic mistake. But as dark as this story is, it's just another in a long line of examples, as fittingly, just a few months following this event, yet another YouTuber would be targeted. El Salon TV was a Mexican YouTube channel started back on February 9th of 2012, being run by a lady named Pamica Montenegro. Pamica would feature videos ranging from beauty tips to skits as well as vlogs, with her undeniable charisma being present in each upload. But along with these fairly standard videos, Pamica would also focus a good deal of her content around political commentary in the region of Guerrero, Mexico. She was a journalist through and through, also publishing within her own magazine, as well as across vast social media accounts. Politics were something that she took very seriously, though that might not always be obvious to outsiders.
That's a thing you should avoid of all times. Never just avoid politics, man. Don't make politics your main channel. You are gonna rub the people the wrong damn way. Because people very one-sidedly delusional when it comes to politics.
Who watched her videos, as she would take a very satirical approach to the topic, often playing as a character and cracking jokes, as she would share this very real information about local officials, having a specific interest in the corruption going on within the city of Acapulco. On March 3rd, 2016, Pamica would upload a video covering the supposed corruption of Evito Velázquez Iguari, an established politician in the area, stating that he had governed with, quote, compadres without experience and without social commitment, before going on to insinuate that he had multiple conflicts of interest and was clearly a corrupt man. Publishing this video would ultimately prove to be costly. According to Pamika's husband, Samuel Munizori, immediately following its upload, his wife was met with a wave of harassment and death threats. A surprising reaction considering that Pamika had such a small following at the time, to this day having only garnered 2,000 subscribers, with the video itself having only 11,000 views. A number that's been heavily inflated in recent years, likely having only a few hundred at the time of the threats. Yet the harassment for even
It doesn't need to be seen by millions of people to rub the certain people the wrong way. All it needs is seen by the right people or the wrong people, even if it's a small amount. That's all they need.
talking about the politician, even if no one was listening, was very real, leading her husband to state that whatever may happen to him and Pamika, it will likely be at the hands of Evadidio Velasquez. But truthfully, Pamika had made more enemies than just him. She had immense knowledge of the gangs that frequented that area, as well as a platform that she would often discuss the activities of these very groups, leading the rumor to be spread that she was releasing secret information about the gangs throughout her channel and her social media pages, something that obviously wasn't taken kindly to. And unfortunately, well, we know where this is headed. On February 5th, 2018, Pamika would be working at a restaurant that she had owned with her husband. There, her husband would send out a social media post inviting all their friends to come in for a visit. Immediately following this, 2 armed gunmen would enter the restaurant in which Pamika was working and proceed to execute her in front of her friends and loved ones. The men would quickly leave the restaurant, never being caught to this day. No motive has ever been given to the seemingly deliberate attack on Pamika, but diving into her history, it would quickly be reported that a local gang had taken her out due to the content she was posting on YouTube, with the Jalisco cartel being tossed around as a potential perpetrator for the crime, while others, including Pamika's own husband, thought that Evadidio Velasquez, the prominent politician that Pamika had frequently criticized, had likely put a hit on her, potentially reaching out to a local gang to do his dirty work in order to silence the journalist who had proven to be his biggest critic, with this particular theory being the most widely believed to this day. But whatever motive was and is true, it shows us the dangerous landscape that journalists in Mexico are facing even to this day, and how risky
Journalists in general, there's people who are like, you just even dare report something that's there, they'll just come right at you with freaking death threats and attempted assassination. They're weird people. It's insane.
this whole YouTube channel really was, despite appearing so innocent, and despite it being so innocent, as the page was run by someone who simply had a passion for politics, and who wanted to report on the truth, despite knowing the implications that it could have. And unfortunately, it was this very drive and the love she had for this channel that would ultimately end up costing Pamika her life. You never know what you're gonna get when you explore these twisted channels that the site has to offer. Some pages telegraph devastation that's soon to come, while some come across as so inconspicuous. But regardless of how they gained their infamy, these channels will serve as relics on the site, and tragic reminders of the disturbed side of humanity and the dark side of YouTube. I'm gonna give a massive
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this reaction video. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Hit the like button, hit subscribe button, comment, think down below. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all for the next one.